Good evening, everyone. Hi, Curtis. Hi, April. Hi, Frederica. Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody had a wonderful day today.
Hello, Twana. Hello,
Hello again.
everybody. It's a marvelous Monday in Memphis, huh? Say that 5 times really fast, Shanice. You got a lot of M's in there. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in about 3 minutes, so feel free to get dinner or your beverage of choice. Tonight's conversation is all about the 22 questions that a lot of professional investors ask during the pitch. And we're excited to share this. This is a part 2 of our investor training session that we are having this evening. I'm glad to see everybody putting your city and state in the chat. If you're watching via our social media, please don't forget to like, share the stream, subscribe, all of that good stuff, please. And it looked like Facebook made a whole bunch of changes again, and I can only see some of our community here. All righty then, I guess they're playing with me. Oh, I think I found it. And there we go. Okay. So while everyone's coming in, don't forget to put your city and state in the chat for us. So while we're waiting just another couple of minutes, I do want to ask, because our community is so great, how many of you have heard this story about the Baltimore student who has a 0.13 GPA and he's at the middle of his class? And you know, unfortunately, the school is not helping, is not proficient. And I sent it out in the newsletter. So I see a couple of people saying I have. Some of you may have not seen that that news story. I really want to do a panel on this. I don't know how to talk about it. I thought about maybe bringing in a couple of entrepreneurs that focus on education, and talking about it from a 10K project point of view. What that poor young man. I mean, like he's probably not going to go back to the ninth grade. the news story was probably naive to suggest that, or the school or whatever. The best we can hope for is a GED, and he can figure out a way to get a good job or become an entrepreneur or something like that. Donna's asking what school. It's a school in Baltimore. Augusta Fells, I think, is the name of it. Definitely a school in Baltimore, Donna. But I would love to put a panel together in April to talk about this. So if that is something that maybe you're a parent, that has had to help your kids overcome a learning disability, or whatever it is, I just feel like it's something that we as the 10K Project can talk about, and maybe we can put a different spin on the solution. So info@the10kproject.com. If you know someone who is in ed tech, education technology, or just an education entrepreneur, period, I would love to speak with them as well. Love to potentially have them on the panel. Info@the10kproject.com.
This story has so many angles to it. As I read the article, and then after I read what you put in the newsletter, I did some research, and there were other articles and interviews out there. And this is not a one road story. This is a three forks in a road story, because there's a lot of accountability that didn't exist, right? And I know you said that poor young man, but I mean, again, there's a lot of accountability from his standpoint, from the parent standpoint, from the school's standpoint, the teacher, the administration, the school board. I mean, it's a big conversation. And I don't think GED is the right answer, because he's missed so much of the actual learning. This is beyond now passing a test to be able to go to the next level. He needs to capture some of that knowledge that wasn't acquired. It's going to be a great conversation, but I think you have to have representation from a lot of different areas, because this is multifaceted. This is huge.
I agree with that. And so somebody asked if this session started early. No, I just started early with asking for panelists that would want to potentially come and talk about this, Maria. So no, the session didn't start early.
Janice said, Janice, there was nothing I read that said learning disability. I
didn't read learning disability either.
There was nothing that indicated that.
Yeah.
There was also an attendance issue, 270.
Oh, it was a bad attendance issue.
There's a truancy issue here. There's like, when I say huge, this is what Salisha always uses, the word behemoth, and I never can find the right sentence to put it in, but I just did.
This is it.
This is behemoth.
Yes. Well, I will say another thing. As we talk about the 10K Project, we've talked always about creating our own jobs, right? When we look at the fact that a lot of our young men in Chicago and in Baltimore are 50% unemployed, 50% in Chicago is my understanding. I don't know what the numbers are in Baltimore, but I would guess that they're the same. Then you bring a young man in like this and you want to give him a chance. We're funding Black-owned businesses because we say we want to give people a chance who may not have gotten a chance anyplace else. But if this young man can't read and he can't do what the business owner needs, how do we reskill? This is why it may end up being a couple of different sessions that we have over the next, year about this, because like Tawana said, this is a multifaceted issue. But I do think it's something that is important for us as the 10K Project to think about, and maybe there's a partial entrepreneurial solution to this, because this is straight prison to pipeline. If there's anything that I've seen that's prison to pipeline, this story is it. Or sorry, school to prison pipeline. Yeah. School to prison pipeline. This is the story, right? that personifies it. I'm not saying that young man is going to be, because we don't know that. I'm just saying the scenario and the system. So I'll Alakoye. No. That you are speaking at the end of the month, so it's not tonight. Well, we do have the Needle founder here, who
That's
he has
awesome.
his own social
Welcome.
media platform. He's coming on at the end of the month. So good to see you, Yende. Okay, so yes, now we're ready to get started now that I've gone left with that. So if you're interested in being on the panel, if you have somebody to recommend, please recommend people that you know personally that you could do a virtual introduction for me. Then I would love to speak to that person. I actually already have it scheduled in our calendar, and now I need panelists because I think that this is going to be a very important conversation for us to have from a community point of view and an investor point of view and an entrepreneur point of view. So I'm looking for people that want to be on that panel. info@the10kproject.com. All righty then. So welcome everybody to the 10K Project. Tawani, you had something to say before we get started?
Yeah, so I just want to say before you go into the questions and all of that, I want to just say thank you again to the community. Our founder praised them last week after their pitch. They talked just about how awesome the community members were and the amazing questions that the community asked, and it was very refreshing for them. They were proud to have this type of investor potentially be a part of their organization. So it was a really nice after conversation, and I just wanted to tell the community, good job.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's first of all tell you a little bit about the 10K Project. We are a community of everyday people, small dollar investors who invest actively in Black-owned businesses. It is time for us to not only get our seat at the table, but to start building our own tables. And that's what the 10K Project is all about. So businesses provide jobs in the community. They create economic stability. However, for businesses to start, grow, expand, they need money. They need capital to do so. But our businesses are the least likely to get funded. And by the time we, the everyday people, find out about these opportunities to help fund these businesses, it's oftentimes too late because most of the profits have been made. So there was something called the Jobs Act that was signed in 2012, and it allowed entrepreneurs to raise money from everyday small dollar investors. It's called equity crowdfunding, and we are called the crowd. So what we do within the 10K Project is we focus on using this legislation to help the Black entrepreneur. And here's how it works overall. So entrepreneurs have an opportunity to raise anywhere from $10,000 to, starting in the next week or so, up to $5 million. Right now, the total raise is $1,070,000, but that's about to be increased. Then we do something called a Bet on Black pitch every week, where we feature a Black entrepreneur who comes, they talk about their business, and then you as the individual investor gets to ask them questions. You get to review their business plan, research the company, and then you as an individual gets to decide if you like that company and if you want to invest in that business. If the company makes it big, then the crowd, i.e. the people who invested in that company, gets a share in the profits. However, if not, if the company doesn't make it, it doesn't mean that they were a bad company. It could have been a myriad of reasons why they didn't, but the investors only lose what they have put into the company. So that is how the 10K Project works overall. So with this, we can start funding our own companies. We don't have to wait for others to come and fund us and fund our businesses. We can do it ourselves. We can profit from our own innovation. We can create jobs, and we can build Black wealth in the community. So again, we're the largest community of small dollar investors who actively fund Black-owned businesses via the equity crowdfunding method. And the ultimate ecosystem that we're building is this. Number one, we bring three groups of people together. The entrepreneurs who are raising anywhere from $10,000 up to $5 million in order to move their business forward. They come and pitch the community of investors, which is group number two, in something called a Bet on Black pitch. And then we had the conversation internally that once these companies raise money, let's say they're raising $300,000. They're usually raising the money in order to do something with it to grow their business. Sometimes they need a patent or a trademark, or they need accounting done, or they need to hire an operations person or a project manager. What could we do to help these entrepreneurs find other professionals in the community that could support them in their business growth? So we started something called the Expert Directory. And if you have a product or a service, you as a member of the 10K Project are able to put your information into the Expert Directory. And as the entrepreneurs need services, they are encouraged to come back to the community and to network with you. So that is the ecosystem that we are building. And we want to invite you to become a member. As a member, you get to attend the Bet on Black pitches. They happen every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You also are able to sign up to the to participate in the Expert Business Directory. We also have some members-only wealth building webinars, trainings about buying real estate, land, tax liens, stock options, etc. You are able to participate in those. We do all sorts of community or peer-to-peer conversations, and we have exclusive content in our Knowledge Center. And to become a member, it's a one-time payment of $100. You get access for life to all the Bet on Black pitches, the Knowledge Center, the webinars that we're doing, etc., for that one-time payment of $100. You can come to the10kproject.com to become a member. Also, I'm getting a lot of emails now from entrepreneurs. Tawana and I are super excited to hear from you. We have another session coming up on how to raise $10,000 to $5 million for your business. The special guest we have is Maureen Murat. She is an attorney. So if you came to the Bill Houston session, he gave you information from a crowdfunding coach point of view. Maureen is going to give you information from a legal point of view. So you can sign up at maureencf101.eventbrite.com, or if you are getting our newsletters, you should have gotten one earlier today. There is a link that you're able to click on. It's happening tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. So every other week, we are going to have a different person come on and speak about how to raise money from their perspective and their point of view. And then, if you want to receive text messages to notify you when the Bet on Black pitches are about to occur. Thanks so much to everybody who responded last week to our impromptu survey in here. You told us you wanted to be notified on Monday, so we sent out the notification already for today. And you want to be notified on Tuesday, 30 minutes before we go live. So you have to text 10K to 202-410-4202. I'm going to leave this up for a minute and let Tawana jump in here. But if you want to receive a text message to notify you when the pitches are about to occur, you can text here. And if you are not a member, you will not be able to get in because I have to manually approve everybody. So please become a member before 4 p.m. tomorrow if you want to attend tomorrow's session, which should be pretty good. Right, Tawana?
Absolutely. Well, I think they're all going to be pretty good. So
it's going to be dynamic. Yes.
Yes. We're trying to, as we talk about investing and diversifying our portfolio, we're also diversifying the pitches that are presented to you. So we have a completely different industry from last week that we're presenting, but an equally eager entrepreneur with a good business model, and he's going to share all of that with you. This one we did a little differently because this is a product, and so this founder was able to. We took 10 people out of our Facebook group who are constant contributors. Right, they're the highest contributors in the Facebook group with posting content and having conversations. And we actually sent them a sample of this product. And so hopefully they'll all be able to be live tomorrow with us to be able to chime in, to add some context around their thoughts about the actual product. So that's something a little different than we did last week, because last week was it was more of a service than a product. But we're going to keep trying to keep this exciting for you guys, with the focus always being on companies who are we believe are good investment strategies for you to determine, when you do your due diligence and make that and see what they have to say. We do some due diligence on the front end, but this is an individual investment community, right? We don't invest as a group. We invest individually. So you have to do your own due diligence individually. But we're just super excited. I spoke to a couple of entrepreneurs today. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity every time I talk to these entrepreneurs, because they're all so amazing. Oh my goodness, they all have wonderful ideas and the innovation and just the forward thinking, and they all seem to have their stuff together. So that's good too. Like I'm blown away after every single conversation, and I'm learning something literally every time I talk to them about business, and it's just enlightening. It really, really is. It's a shame that we don't see more of us in Forbes and Fortune 500 and all of those things, because we are out there and we deserve to be highlighted in that manner. And that's the difference I think we all can make as investors in this community. We can take them to that next level where they get that visibility that they don't currently get, because I'm telling you, I am blown away every day I talk to them.
Well, we want to keep it a little quiet, a little while longer, so all of us in the community can build a strong portfolio, right? You don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon. So with that, I did want to show a couple of more things before we jumped into the 22 questions that professional investors ask. The first is our website has been updated, everybody. So we want to make sure that you know that the website has been updated. There are a couple of, or one additional tweak that we'll add in. I'm working on a video right now that we're adding in. But for your friends, family who have been asking, what is this 10K project thing? Can you send me something? Well, now you can. You can send them the updated website. There is an ebook that they can download. They can read all of the information. And we have quite a few of you asking about two things. Number one, Cherie, how do I be a Bet on Black pitch individual or business? If you come to the Pitch Your Business page here, you will see you'll need to click on this statement that best describes you, and it takes you through the process. And based on where you are in your journey of entrepreneurship, it will tell you, okay, this is where you are and this is how you get down the yellow brick road. So that's number one. Number two is, and I'm going to try to move myself just a little bit here. On the top right-hand corner here, I hope everyone can see it. People have been asking about the Knowledge Center, how to get into it. I think many of you now have been able to get into it because the customer service questions have lessened significantly. But you can always come to the website, and the Knowledge Center login is right here, and you're able to get to the Knowledge Center this way. Also, we had somebody say that they feel like they're missing so much because they're not in Facebook. If you want to get in Facebook, that's fine. You're able to come. These are our social channels here. If you don't want to be in Facebook, you're missing some conversation, but everything that we do, we send through official channels. We send through our newsletters every Monday and every Thursday. So,
if you can just put a pin right there, Cherie, I would
yes.
say for anyone who feels like they're missing something, really it's that newsletter you got to focus on, because Cherie does a really great job of summarizing kind of everything that's coming, things that we've already done for the week. And so that's where I think if you don't do anything else and you want to stay up to speed on what's happening, read your newsletter every Monday and every Thursday.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And what I'm trying to do with the newsletter is I've been working really hard on adding articles. Right now, the articles are like 100 to 200 words, but eventually they'll be fleshed out a little bit more as well. So we're really looking at becoming this I won't say full service place, but a place where you can come and get some meatier content and not just have the newsletter be a calendar of events, but have it to be stories that affect us and how we look at it through that investor entrepreneur 10K project lens, which is, part of the reason why I started talking about the young man with the 0.13 GPA. That came from me listening to a podcast about it and putting it in the newsletter and getting feedback from the community as well. So a few people answered my email about that. So the other thing I want to talk about is the Knowledge Center itself. So when you come into the Knowledge Center, the first thing you're going to see here are announcements. And with the announcements, if you are looking for, let's say you can't find your newsletter, you can always come in here and find the latest information with regards to Zoom links. So these are updated. I'm going to update them tonight, but these are updated on Monday evenings. You also are able to come here to my account, and I'm asking people to please do this because actually Tawana has mentioned that she has spoken with the entrepreneurs, and this is an aspect of the 10K project that they are excited about, and that is seeing people in the expert directory. So we need more people in the expert directory. If you are an expert, come here to activate expert profile, enter your information, and become part of the expert directory. Okay? I want to encourage you to do that. So the third thing is the Knowledge Center itself. So this is Audrey and her team did a really great job with creating this Knowledge Center for us. You're able to find information just, number one, by perusing basically all of this. We worked hard on with Dr. Keisha on trying to put these things in, these webinars and PDFs into not too many different sections, but enough where you're able to find overall what you're looking for. The second thing that's really cool about this is, say you want to hear the Opportunity Zone webinar again. You can come into the search button here and put in opportunity. And all of a sudden, everything that says opportunity shows up. So now you can figure out which Opportunity Zone webinar you want to listen to. Or you could put the person's name in here as well, and it automatically shows up. So I wanted to make sure before we went to today's session that we went through those things. And I see a couple of Q&As in here too.
I'm responding to the first one. So
okay. Virginia saying, I tried to enter my expert information today and it was grayed out, could not enter my state and did not have that activate button option. Okay, Virginia, I am going to ask Audrey about this because we had gone through this and I thought that we had all the technical issues taken care of. If there are other technical issues, definitely let us know. Audrey does a good job of it. Once I bring a technical issue to her attention, she goes in and really tries to fix it quickly. So if there are other technical issues, please let us know, because we want 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people in that expert directory in the next couple of months. So that's a really big thing we are working on. Did I forget anything, Tawan, or do you have any, announcements before we get started with the topic of the day?
Well, I'll see most of you, I hope, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for the Bet on Black pitch. If you are not already a member, please consider it, as I'm telling you, you're missing some treats.
You are. And I will say this as well. Even if you're going through a rough time financially, or you don't necessarily have the funds, come to the pitch anyway. You may be surprised what you discover in terms of just information. It'll give you a chance to practice that muscle. You get to be around like-minded people in the pitch. And, when things are better for you, or you have that disposable income that you're able to put in, then you would have at least already heard several pitches before you get to that point. So don't be ashamed or embarrassed to just come in, and listen to the pitch.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because I can tell you, even as I was reading the questions last week, there were 3. I was like, oh, I got to write that down real quick so I can follow up myself on that. So I learned something and I wrote them down. I was like, oh, I need to do more research on why that's important. So it is definitely a learning opportunity just to hear some of the questions communities asking, and then the answers, right? To see how the responses kind of match, right? And where they fall in line with how you're going to make your decision. So it's definitely an educational opportunity as well.
Okay, it is. I love it. So you all are you're going to be some of the best, we call it dinner date companions out there. Give it a year. All of a sudden you'll be like, yeah, I do know a little bit about that. I heard a pitch about that. And this is, where the industry is headed. And, there'll be some interesting people to be around. So, all righty then. So today's session is about part 2 of our training on becoming an investor. Well, you're already an investor, but learning what professional investors do. And what I've done is I've compiled 22 questions that a lot of professional investors ask during a pitch. Now, these are in the Knowledge Center, but we're going to go through some of them today as well. So I'm going to share my screen here. And 22 questions professional investors ask during a pitch. These are not all the questions that they ask, and they don't ask all of these questions during every pitch. You gotta, customize it for the person who is pitching, but these are some of the questions that are asked. So, and Tawana, stop me anytime you see something that, you want to talk about. Number 1 is, what is your product or service? So as I'm writing business plans for people, one of the things that I always tell people is a confused mind says no. A confused mind says no. So a lot of professional investors, if they don't understand what your product or service is, then a lot of times, they tend to shy away from it. But you want to at least you may not understand everything, but you want to understand overall what the product or service is, what the person is offering. Number 2, why will people buy your product or service, and what is unique about it? Number 3, what is your competitive advantage, and why can it not be copied? And I would say easily copied, because there are competitive advantages that can be copied, but why can it not easily be copied? So, for example, some companies are first to market. Others have patents, trademarks, or other forms of intellectual property protection. Other companies have team members, including engineers and salespeople, that offer competitive advantage. So one of the things that I always tell my clients is sometimes the competitive advantage is not the product, but it's something in the business itself that makes the business, that gives the business a competitive advantage. It could be a board member. It could be a big account that they have, and that account's going to lead to other accounts, etc. Number 4, how does your company make money? And what is the business or revenue model? Do we understand how the company makes money? Number 5, is your product ready to be purchased today? Now, if somebody says that their product is not ready to be purchased today, that's not a deal breaker. You just need to know where they are in the product life cycle. If it's something that is on a sheet of paper and they haven't built a beta product yet, we just need to know that. If it's something that is a beta product that's out there and being used by people for free, but they haven't sold any of it yet, we need to know that as well. So number 6, do you have any past sales? If so, how much? Want to know what they've done thus far. If you have not made any past sales, when do you expect to make your first sale? And a lot of these are estimates for companies. What is the potential total market size or total addressable market for your product or service? Now, I'll tell you something that professional investors do or they think about. If a person, let's say, is selling Mary Kay skin cosmetics, and the entrepreneur comes in and says, our total market is everybody because everybody has skin, the professional investor tends to cringe because there are, I mean, outside of air, there are a few products that are truly for everybody. Even if you say houses, right? Everyone needs shelter, but not everyone's going to buy the $1 million mansion, right? Or the $12 million condo in New York. So what people are looking for here, the professional investors are looking for a little more specificity of who is in your ideal market and what's the true total market size or total addressable market. And Tawana, again, you can stop me whenever you want. Next is, what is the potential market size and how much of the market do you expect to capture, and is that estimate realistic? So how big is it, and then how much do you expect to capture, and is that estimate realistic? Next is, do you have a product distribution network? And this is very interesting. I think that this question has changed a lot. If we consider Parler, for example, and this is not political, this is just us having a conversation about how quickly supply chains can be broken and you could be out of business because of one or two little things that ended up being big things, obviously. But because Amazon and 2 other companies said no to Parler, they were pretty much done. So, professional investors will ask about what's your distribution network, what's your backup plan. The more money they're putting in, they'll ask these questions. Go ahead, Tawana.
No, I was just gonna say it's in addition to having the plan, right? What is the backup plan? And so you just said that. And what's the plan B and C? Because we all know just this last year with COVID, right? People that didn't have a plan or couldn't come up with one really quickly have suffered. And so we definitely want to make sure that the investments we are looking into, that they're thinking about that. They're not just thinking about when the world is great and the stars align and the moon is in the right place, right? What happens when the moon doesn't shine bright, right? How are you going to still make me money as an investor?
Yeah. Number 11 is who is on your team and why are they the best people to execute the business plan? So we had this conversation last week, and in Brian Belly's presentation, he talked about investors more likely giving an A team with a B product money over a B team with an A product. That means that the team is so important. And one of the reasons why the team is so important, in my opinion, is because a great team knows how to zig and zag. I always compare it to an ant. You know, if an ant is trying to get from point A to point B and you put something in its way, the ant will not give up. They go around the thing, over it, under it, through it, whatever they have to do to reach their destination. Ants are also good because they know how to work together to pick up more than their body weights in order to get an object to the finish line, whatever the finish line is for them. So when you're looking at who is on your team, one of the things that I believe professional investors are asking is how agile is this team? If things don't work out, and things rarely work out the way that we plan in our business plans, how quickly is this team going to be able to bounce back? So
I'll add just a little commentary here as well. So, you know, we don't make any qualms about the 10K project highlighting Black entrepreneurs. That is our purpose. That's why we're here, right? And making sure that we close this wealth gap that exists in our community. And when I say our community, I am talking about the Black community. So we don't make any qualms about that. However, when you're looking at the teams of these businesses, it is important that they have the right skill sets on their team, right? The people who can take them to that Forbes article I talked about a moment ago, right? And so there are going to be times when the team doesn't look like the founder. And we need to make sure we're asking questions about why that person was the right person, because there are a lot of expertise and skill sets that exist outside of our community as well, right? And while we're here to highlight our Black founder, we are not here to discriminate against anyone else. That's not the point of this all. And so I just want us to remember that the team's diversity may sometimes make us say, well, that's weird. Founder's Black, but everybody else isn't, right? That could be a strategic move from the founder. And so if that is a concern of yours, that's when you show up to this pitch live and you ask that question, right? And then have the founder explain to us why these team members were the right pick for him and her to be able to get to that Forbes article.
That's a great point. So we're definitely looking for the best skill set. And then that's a plug for the expert directory, because you may be the person to help fill in some of what the team needs as well. So
Erica says, it's kind of in line with this question, how does an investor know if a business team is a great team? So I can start and then Shireen will jump in. I mean, you know, one way to know is what have they done in the past, right? Yeah. You know, what are their accomplishments? What's the accomplishments of the team? Usually I find that people build their team with, you know, amazing people who have done something great in the area upon which they are being utilized for this particular product. You can always, if you're talking about, you know, how do you individually kind of research them? There's always LinkedIn, right? Where you may be able to get a professional profile and get some kind of a bird's eye view into something about them professionally. I am going to tell you, though, probably the best way to get some insight is to ask the founder, why this person? What made them a right fit, you know, for your CFO or for your whatever, and they will give you their reason. Yeah. So you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing I would add to that, that's an excellent response, Tawana. The only thing I would add to that is, what milestone is this person going to help you hit?
That's good.
Right? Okay, so I hate the term take us to the next level because I'm like, what does that mean? So I always use the term milestone. What somebody's raising $1 million, for example, they're raising it in order to get to a milestone. So let's say that they have 4 different milestones that they're expecting to hit. One of the things that I'm asking is, okay, milestone number 1, who are the team members that are going to help you to get to milestone number 1? And what was your selection process, as Tawana said, for you to decide that these team members can help you get there? And then we go through 2, 3, and 4 as well. And I will also say that there's nothing wrong with the person saying, look, I don't have this person on my team yet because I don't have the money. But they told me as soon as I have the money, then they are willing to come on my team, and some team members are not necessarily employees too. I will say that. Some team members are board members. They are independent contractors, etc. So those are the only 2 things I would have. That's a great question. Are there any other questions that in the chat?
Not currently.
Okay. So, and please continue asking your questions as well, everybody. Number 12, what risk do you face as a business? What are your weaknesses? What are your market or external threats that can sabotage your success? Excuse me. Nobody had COVID in their business plan, like nobody. However, we had Donnie McCoy come a few months ago, and she did talk about the fact that there were people mentioning that a threat, would be some sort of a health scare and a global health issue, and how a lot of people were not prepared for that. If you're dealing with an e-commerce company or a tech company, there are inherent risks there. There are risks of a certain key team member leaving. And sometimes leaving may not be leaving. Sometimes it's dying or getting, having incapacitation issues. Even Tawana and I are talking about that on the back end. Okay, I get hit by the proverbial bus. Are you going to be able to take this thing and march forward, right? So, every business has risk, both, I'm going to say known and unknown, but, foreseeable and unforeseeable. Sometimes the risks are, and these are more external or market threats. Sometimes it's a law being changed. So how many of you are in cryptocurrency? Put a 1 in the chat if you're in cryptocurrency. I'm starting to see some 1s come through now. Perfect.
Well, all right,
when Tawana and a lot of people in cryptocurrency, yes, y'all need to come to Blockchain Chat on Wednesday. We got Nadja Roberts coming in.
Look at all these ones. Look at that.
So if you were part of crypto in 2016, 2017, when Tawana and I first got in, there were a lot of people raising millions of dollars of funds in funding, tokenizing their businesses, right? They were selling, they did token offerings, and the SEC with their pen cut that business out like immediately. With 1 fell swoop. That is a business risk. Now, people were warned in advance. Like I remember the rumblings in 2017, 2018, where everyone was like, oh my goodness, we were thinking about it, but now the SEC is starting to come in, and there were a lot of scams happening in that market and in that space. But yeah, sometimes it's a law, sometimes it's a change in administration on the federal level, the state level, etc. Sometimes it's a change in taste. All of a sudden, Clubhouse is popping, and another social network isn't, right? All of those things as well. So
We've got a couple of questions, Sheree.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Chris Myers says, some people may not know how, no, excuse me, Chris Myers says, some people may not know about how many shares they will receive if they invest in a pitch and the company goes public. Can you guys please explain that? Some of us might not understand shares in a company. I think that's a great point. So, when a company decides to raise money, they have to determine what their valuation is, right? Ultimately, what their company's worth, right? Both current and in the future. And then they also decide what portion of the company they're putting up, right? For people to buy into. And so that those represent the shares in the company, and that varies. So like all the deals we're bringing to you, the percentage of shares they're putting up, completely up to them, and they are going to vary. The other thing that varies is how much they're charging per share, right? So I saw one today, the founder was charging $1.40 a share. Another one was charging $5 a share. Another one was charging $16 a share, right? And so that is what they are determining as the value of that one share of their company. So when you invest, you are buying multiples of those shares, right? Because most of these companies have a minimum amount that is higher than what one share costs, right? So maybe the guy who had the $1.40 a share, his minimum investment he was taking was $100. So that would buy you a little less than probably 800 shares, or a little more than 800 shares, maybe. That was very rough math.
I think it's 80 shares.
How much?
80 shares.
If dollars. If he was paying $100 at 140, so instead of 800, 80, about 80 shares that would give him. And so so of course we're trying to get in early with investing, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, right? The whole premise of 10K Project is to get in from an investor standpoint, is to get in early, right? Get that seat at the table that we don't usually get to, right? For those of us who are not accredited or don't have access to some of these early stage businesses, right? So the same entrepreneur who shares today are $1.40. Maybe he has some kind of exit event, right? In 10 years, because this is long-term investment. We don't do quick turnarounds here. Everything we do is really looking out to the future, 7 to 10 years. So in 10 years, maybe he sells his company. Maybe he goes public, whatever his exit is. Those shares that we buy today at $1.40 are now worth $10 a piece. So now those 80 shares that you had, that you only paid $1.40 for, are now worth a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the concept of shares. So as we're presenting the entrepreneurs to you, and we're showing you their campaign page and telling you where to find all their legal documents and looking at their Form C and looking at everything they're offering to you, you want to absolutely make sure you look at the price of shares, and think about that while you're asking your questions too, about scalability of the business and future plans and all of that, because that's going to tie in, right? As those shares appreciate in value, that's how you make money. Sheree shared the story last week about a company, the virtual reality glasses, Oculus. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do equity crowdfunding. They just did rewards-based crowdfunding, where if you invested early with their company, you got a free Oculus virtual reality machine, right? Probably valued at about $300, right, on the open market. Well, those people, had they invested from an equity standpoint and got shares of that company instead of that awesome machine, when that company was then purchased, right, for what was a couple of $1 billion, something crazy like that? $2 billion. As an investor, they would have made a lot more money, right?
20 grand.
A lot more money. And all they got was the awesome machine. So that's one of the reasons why we focus on equity and not rewards based, because this is about building wealth, closing the wealth gap in our communities, building the generational wealth that we keep talking about that we need in the family, and catching up with all of the disparities of wealth, right? And so So equity crowdfunding allows you to own those shares in the company, that as long as that company is doing the right thing and running it right and really focusing on the business, it is very likely, and we hope very likely, that they then scale their business to allow their shares to appreciate.
Absolutely. And I will also say that one of the things that Brian said in his presentation that we did last week, and I keep referring to Brian, we used a gentleman named Brian Belly's presentation, and we, changed it up to be more relatable to us, but 95% of the information in that session was his. So I always want to give him credit. He did warn us about not just looking at share price, but looking at upside potential. So what I just want to caution people about is, like Tawana said, one person is offering their shares for $1.40, another person's offering their shares for $5. You don't want to take share price in a vacuum and say, oh, the $1.40 is better.
Right.
No. You want to be able to look at both companies holistically and say, do either of these companies fit into my portfolio? Could both of them potentially fit into my portfolio? Do I believe that, either of these companies can, do well and have an exit and give me my return on capital plus a nice upside, right? So I just want to warn people about that as well. You just want to be very careful with just looking at valuation. Because for the $5 companies, I'll give you a great example. The $5 company may already have sales, whereas the $1.40 company may not even have a product yet. Little things like that make a big difference. So,
very good point.
Were there other questions? Yeah.
Yes. The next one is, I like this question. Curtis, I'm glad you asked this because there was a question last week that let me know we need to talk about this some more. So Curtis says, I have to catch up. Read your newsletter, Curtis. He says, is there an initial investment, $100 buy-in already, or do we invest in the pitch companies individually after hearing the pitches? And so Curtis, everything that we do at 10K is about educating you, the investor, right? Or educating you, the entrepreneur, to help you be able to learn more, to either grow and scale your business or to be a more savvy investor, right? But everything we do from an investment standpoint is individual. So we're presenting these entrepreneurs to the community, right? For you to do some additional due diligence and then make a determination on if they fit in your individual portfolio. So the $100 you pay to become a member of 10K gets you access to the Knowledge Center Cherie showed you, access to all of the webinars and the seminars that we do. We bring the amazing guests here to see you, to talk to you. And then you get that, and then access to being able to put your information in the skills or expert directory, as well as find resources within that expert directory. And then also a seat at the table, which is the Bet on Black pitch, right? To be able to experience the possibility of that early investment and get, and instead of you scouring the internet to see where these deals are, being able to have them here for you where you can ask that entrepreneur anything you want, right? And so, but the decisions you make to invest is all you. It's your money to invest. You are sending that directly through whatever platform or portal that entrepreneur is housing their campaign on. Not sending any monies to 10K. We're not doing a group. We're not having group think, right? Because again, it's my portfolio, it's Cherie's portfolio, Curtis, it's your portfolio. So I may like a deal and you may say, I've got actually a perfect example. I told you guys about the sample of something that was being sent. One of the people that we sent a sample to, he said, I'll do the sample, but I'm probably not going to invest because I've already invested in like 3 companies within that industry already. And I said, perfect. That's okay. But you still can take the sample and give your review. And he said, absolutely. So sometimes something just won't fit even before you hear the pitch, right? He knew that this industry is already well populated within his portfolio, and there would be no need for him to have another investment there. So that's why the individual investment option is really the best. The other thing people confuse us with sometimes is a fund. And a fund is where you all put your money together and you kind of have groupthink or you vote. We are not that. This is just us highlighting the entrepreneur, educating the investor, and then bringing the two of you together to meet and hopefully be together for a lot of years, right? Until there's some kind of happy exit, and then people make money at the end of it. But wonderful question, Curtis. I'm so glad you asked that because I meant to bring that up when Cherie first went over everything.
Are there other questions?
There are. Johnny says, are there any templates for risk analysis of your business? Is there a no source? Johnny, I don't know that I understand your question. When you say risk analysis, do you mean of the businesses we're bringing to pitch? And did you mean knowledge source, or tell me what you mean? Expand a little bit on that. Tandanico says, and I'll come back to your question, Johnny. Tandanico says, I think I'm just not going to understand or get any help to know the legal standpoint on this. I need a coach. I've requested a coach and just can't seem to connect. What do you think the letter? So Tandanico, what? Oh, okay. So Tandanico's son. Okay, Tandanico's son has wants to start a clothing apparel line. And so Tandanico, does your son want to raise money via crowdfunding? And are you
looking to?
Her son
Tandanico, if I remember correctly, your son is 2, right?
No.
That's not the same person? Okay.
I don't think so. Tandanico, chime in. Isn't he? I thought he's in 18 or something like that, right? Or 19.
No, she said yes here.
Oh, he's 2.
He's 2. Yes. So she's doing this because she
wants to. Your 2-year-old son has a clothing line. So really, Tandanico, you got a clothing line, right? Baby don't have a clothing line. You got a clothing line. Okay. So you need a coach on how to develop the business, or do you already have the business developed and you're needing assistance with the crowdfunding aspect of it? I think maybe that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, she needs a business coach.
Okay.
Yeah, she needs a business coach. I thought I've sent you a couple of options. So, well, I wanted to make sure first, because we didn't have a chance to connect on this piece, but it seems like you do want to go forward with your son's clothing line. So you need a business coach, somebody that can help you really figure out what the brand is going to be. There are kids on YouTube that are making 6 and 7 figures with YouTube channels, playing with toys and doing all sorts of stuff. So a lot of it is about a business model. I can connect you with business coaches. Unfortunately, they're not going to be free. There is going to be some cost there. The other thing I can say is Professor Google is a great place. So, you learn everything about marketing and everything about e-commerce, and then connecting with a company like a Teespring or something like that, where you don't have to worry about being the supply chain. All you're focused on is the creativity and the marketing, building a brand and building a community like we've built the 10K Project. You want to build your own community around your son's clothing line.
And maybe start here in the community. So now that I better understand what you're trying to accomplish, post something in the Facebook group. Are there any business coaches here? Right? And I'll make sure I approve that post so everybody sees it. Maybe even give like a 1 or 2 sentence on what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. So Terrence, you said SBA. Tandanico, I think I sent you the SBA when you emailed me, but I thought I was talking to your son when I was emailing back and forth with you. That's why I thought the son was old. I'm like, no, the son's not 2. I talked to the son. We were emailing. So maybe, either put something in the group, start with SBA. They definitely have coaches. I think I actually looked to see what their services were before I referred that resource to you. But you definitely want to fine tune the business model first, right? Before you can step into how to fund it. But very good. But don't be discouraged, right? Do not be discouraged. This is, you just stay the course.
And the other thing I will say is, now be very careful as you do this, but you may want to partner with somebody that knows the business aspect if you're going to be the person who knows the creative side. You know how to put quotes together, you know how to talk to the camera and have your son talk to the camera. Then maybe you have somebody who becomes your business partner and business manager who runs the business aspects of it. My only thing is make sure you guard the checkbook. So.
All right, Johnny came back and clarified his question. So Johnny says, are there known sources for risk analysis for the different industries? Are there established sources to start with, or is it all up to the company's team?
So I would try Kingscrowd. We had talked about that last week. Kingscrowd, Kingscrowd. There are also there are sources out there like Statista. That's not really risk analysis, it's more industry analysis. But no, I mean, sometimes Google is a great place too, putting in risk in X industry. So risk in T-shirt industry, for example, for Tanganyika, risk in this type of industry, risk in that type of industry. Sometimes doing that, especially in my writing for my clients, I get a whole lot of information because you get different voices from different articles. Going into LinkedIn as well and finding those articles is a great way to do it. But it's very hard to find those types of sources unless you're a Wall Street person willing to pay big money for it, because those types of sources are meant for the person putting up $100,000, into those types of investments.
Yeah. Chris says, as far as the businesses that are doing the pitches, how many industries does the 10K project have a connection to as far as the pitches? If it's too early to answer that question, I understand. Actually, Chris, so I can tell you, I've got the next, not including tomorrow, I've got the next 7 weeks scheduled, and they are all different industries. So, and they are also different from tomorrow and from last week's. So we're really spanning, as many industries as we can. And they are a mix of service as well as product. So we're really trying to mix it up, so that you can have some sort of diversification and feel like if you have the disposable income, that maybe you can invest in a little bit in all of them, to be able to, just make that determination though, right? And I'll leave that up to you, but we're trying to make it as such that if you wanted to invest in more than one of them, you could. But that's going to be the individual's preference and how much money you have to spend. And notice I did say disposable income, right? Please do not spend mortgage money on these investments, right? Do not invest the children's college funds. That's not disposable. You already earmarked that for the babies, right? So do not, if you cannot lose the money that you are investing, do not invest, right? You don't have the money to potentially lose, then you're not ready to invest. Remember, I said these are long-term investment deals. So can you afford to go without that money for 7 to 10 years, right? So be very, very mindful of that. I hope I answered your question, Chris.
And one thing that we want to do in the summer and fall time is we want to start having industry-specific peer-to-peer conversations, so that we are able to look at certain industries and say, hey, what are some of the opportunities within those industries? And then begin to, look for entrepreneurs and people who are wanting to do things within those industries as well, and being a lot more strategic with that. So I do want to go back just to finish up our questions here. So we ended up with the risk. What is your marketing plan and how will you attract customers? That's another big thing that professional investors ask. Why will customers stay or do repeat business with you? So how are you attracting those customers, and then how are you keeping them? Those are different, right? Number 15, do you have any alliances or partnerships already set up? This is a very important one as well, depending on the type of business that you are speaking with. If it requires partnerships to get up, running, grow, you want to make sure that those people have those partnerships already set up. How much money are you raising? What will you use the money for? Now, Tawana, you have some comments with regards to people asking number 16, how much money people are raising, right?
So there's some information. So this is actually one that you can ask. You can ask live. So the way what the SEC says that each offering has to be on paper, right? Meaning that a founder can't just come and tell you what they're doing, right? They have to have filed it with the SEC, documented very clearly on what they are offering you and what they want in return. Hence, the shares are $1.48, minimum is $100, right? This is the type of deal it is. If it's a safe, or if it's debt, or if it's equity, we'll get into those. We're gonna have another session, Cherie, to get into some of that stuff on what those things mean, because I think they need to know that as well. And so all of that has to be well documented. And so everything that the offerings include are on the portal, right? And all of these founders are on different portals, but it's listed on the portal that their campaign is being managed through. And so what we'll do every Tuesday is we'll go to the portal that that particular founder is on. We will pull up their campaign, and we'll kind of show you where you can find all the legal documents. Some portals, it's right there in your face. And then some you got to scroll, some at the middle of the page, some at the end of the page. So we'll show you on that particular deal where you can find the legal information. There are some things that you have to read for yourself, is how it's interpreted to some. But it's interesting because when we were talking to our attorney the other day, she said, no, as long as it's on paper, the founder can still talk about it. You just got to refer them back to the paper to read it for themselves as well. So, but know that whatever the founder tells you the offering is, make sure you go to the form and the legal disclosures to read it for yourself, right? Because they could make a mistake and say one thing, but what's filed with the SEC is what is the thing.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. So Tawana is like the resident expert on the equity crowdfunding rules around here. So, but number 18 is what business milestone will you reach once you raise the funds? So I've been talking about that pretty consistently tonight. Some examples could be they'll finish their prototype, they're going to get distribution to big retail, all sorts of things they're able to do. Number 19, will you raise more money in the future? And if so, when? There are two different reasons why a professional investor wants to know this, and we may want to know it as well. Number one is something called dilution of shares. So dilution is when the value of a share is less or becomes less or lower because new shares are issued. So you'll hear like stock splits and things like that. This is, all about dilution, right? So you want to be aware of that. It's not necessarily bad. Sometimes it's a good thing, but it's something that is done if people are raising lots of money, multiple raises. Okay. Number two is you may want to keep that company on the horizon because when they come back to raise money again, you want to be on the list because you are keeping up with them and you're seeing, wow, they're doing such a great job. I want to add more money and I'm willing to put a bigger bet on the Black company. So next is when will the business be profitable? A lot of the businesses may take a few years to become profitable. And what is that process for them to become profitable? What is your exit plan as it pertains to our investment? how am I going to get my money back? So, and Tawana may have something to add to that, because there are several ways from a professional investor point of view that they can get their money back. But the two most common ways are, well, there are three. Number one is that the company could be sold. Number two is the company could go on the stock market, do an IPO. And then number three is that, and this is for very small private investor companies, that once the company becomes profitable, they start taking distributions. Number three is least likely in our scenario. Number one or two is more likely, but that is something we want to be aware of as well. And then number 22.
Before you get to 22, Chris actually has a question related to 20. Okay. When will the business be profitable? He said, can they truthfully answer that question? He says, it's a great question, but will they be misleading us with the answer? So Chris, I think if they answer the question properly, then in my opinion, it can reveal to you that they have thought about all of the ways they plan to make money, right? But you are correct. If they start to promise and say, well, it's going to, imagine the company that raised money and said, my company is going to be profitable in 2019. Or in 2020, excuse me.
2020, yeah.
Well, the joke's on them, right? Because COVID happened. But if they told you, here are the things I'm going to do to ensure profitability, right? Here are the proven things I'm going to do, or to increase the odds of profitability. And they list those out. And then as investors, we're saying, okay, that's plausible. Okay, that's plausible. Okay. And then the investor, that says, and if that doesn't work, I've got my plan B, where I'm going to try this, that, and this, and maybe change markets, or maybe do this, or maybe, flip the product, or whatever it is. That tells me, at least as an investor, that this is a business person that is thinking about the future, right? I might bet on that entrepreneur, because they're letting me know they're forward thinking. So you're absolutely right. If they say, oh, it's going to be profitable absolutely in 3 years, well, come on. We know that's not. And then I would tell you, if anybody says that to us in our community when we're listening to their pitch, Chris, you are the designated challenge to that question, right? So that's when you get on and tell and say, how can you say that, right? But I think there are ways we can ask that question and listen for the answers. One of the things that we had a member email us, because she thought the questions were very sophisticated. And for those people who are new to the investment journey, it was a lot. I'm telling you, because the questions were off the chain. I was like, really? Do we have a bunch of financial advisors in our community? Because these questions were amazing. And they were different than these 22. And so she said, could we kind of ask some more basic questions? And I said, well, we didn't plan these questions. These were the questions the community members had. I was just reading them literally in the order they were received. Unless I saw a duplicate, then I would skip it. So I wasn't even picking and choosing until the very last 5 minutes, and I was trying to get some more in. But what I told her was, one of the things we may need to do is we may need to go back to that session. And for all of you who are members, to go back to that session also and listen to those questions. And maybe we have some kind of a session on why that question was important and what the answer to that question revealed to us, right? I know I'm the kind of learner that connects the dots best that way. And that may be really helpful to say, here's the question that was asked. Why is it important? And here's the answer. Why was that a good or bad answer, right? And I only think that's probably only fair to do after the campaign, because you got to do your own due diligence, right? So we'll just compile, maybe after like the third or fourth pitch, compile a bunch of different questions that were asked and kind of have that exercise. But so thank you to the member who asked the question, because it made me think we need to take a deeper dive on why those questions were as good as they were and what did they reveal.
Yeah. So then the final question is, how much money have you, the entrepreneur, invested in this business? And this question is here because I don't know any professional investor who would put their money into a business that the entrepreneur has no money in. Now I'm going to leave it like that. So Tawana, do we have any additional questions? We ran a little late here.
No additional questions, but they were really good ones. This was good dialogue, so I'm not even upset we went a little long.
Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here this evening. Hope you enjoyed yourself. These questions are in the Knowledge Center. You're able to go get them, download them, use them as you're listening to the pitches, and it gives you just more information to listen for as we are listening to the pitches. So I want to thank my partner in crime.
You're very welcome. I'll just say, if you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. If you haven't watched last week's pitch in the Knowledge Center, so please watch it. The business was, a great kickoff to our Bet on Black series. And so please watch it, make the determination. That particular deal closes on 3/16. So you've got about a week to watch it and make a determination. But we'll see. Hopefully, I'll see all of you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for our next Bet on Black pitch. And thank you guys always for spending your time with us. We definitely appreciate you. I know you guys are all saying thank you to us, but we really say thank you to you, because if there wasn't a you, we wouldn't even be here sitting here talking to each other. Yeah. We do that all day anyway with nobody listening. So that's not as fun as this is.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Good night. See you tomorrow.